We're back for another cozy stream with Donald Kent. I'm sorry I've been away for a week because I was sick. Just a head cold, but a stubborn head cold. And with all that's going on in my life, I'm kind of at I'm sort of at like 9.5 in terms of stress and stuff. And so when I get a cold, I just kind of collapse and can't really function after that, so I needed the time off. Feeling better. I have got kung fu sparring scheduled for tomorrow after work, and then gonna go dancing to some DJs in the city after that in the evening. So I'm looking forward to getting back to some kind of happiness and fun. And I made some headway with some pages. I guess I'll show you a little preview or review or what have you of some pencil work. I know it's kind of light and maybe not easy to see, but that of course then gets inked. I don't know how much of the inking you've seen already. I'll give you guys a quick look at all that again. It's a little out of order here, but the story is moving along nicely. This has yet to be inked, but this is kind of the beginning of the story where essentially you're just introducing the characters. You know, like any movie, TV show. In the beginning, you have to set the themes and introduce the characters. Da da da. Maga Force. The story, as I've mentioned in several other streams, is it it changes quite a lot. It starts off with this kind of MAGA force. What do you think? You know, it's a very patriotic superhero team. They're sponsored by Judeo-Christian News, and they kind of fight against this cult of I just essentially call them a cult that are out there, and this cult is like, doing the usual stuff, destroying historic monuments. In this case, they're attacking and killing priests and nuns, and so it's pretty heavy duty stuff going on here. But it is a comic book too, so that's got a lot of entertainment. There's some romance, some comedy. I think you guys may have seen this bit already. Just kind of a quick review. And so, you have this kind of like corporate sponsored superhero team that does good deeds in the community. They help out with, Boy Scouts and universities and, any kind of like major accidents or weather crisis and various things like that. They're sort of like superhero Boy Scouts in a way. They're kind of well loved and all that kind of stuff. And then you kind of start to get a behind the scenes look at the Judeo-Christian News, newsroom cameras behind the scenes, the production. We get to see what's going on with how they portray and how they use this patriot superhero team in terms of like the socio-political climate. There's lots of tiny little Easter eggs and things kind of hidden in there. This demonstrates the sort of, how these rioters get released from prison and they're back out on the street, and how the system is kind of working against America and Americans. It has that kind of like MAGA populism quality to it. And then the team, except for the main character, all get killed at the end of the first issue. So that's kind of a shocking, like, why would you do that? Why would you set up all these characters and all this development and then kill them after the first issue? Why? So to find out why, you'll have to see the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth issue. It's going to take a lot of time. So, when you're working a full time job and paying a mortgage as a single dad, you do the best you can. I wish that I could go faster. Um, I guess in a way I could say that a lot of what I learned in the past, I don't know, week or so was just kind of how I really have to figure out how to step it up. I have to step up production. I was doing fairly well in terms of like getting moving along, whatever. I had a certain clip where I'm like, okay, I know I can get, a couple pages done a week, something like that. Um, but then like whatever, the cold hit, and I just fell back into depression and that kind of stuff. I know you guys know I'm still kind of coping with and mourning my mom's passing. This isn't gonna go away. It's not gonna just kind of magically stop. It's an everyday thing in my life. Um, Getting back to like the sparring and the dancing and the sort of having a social life and the whatnot is very, very helpful in terms of managing that kind of stress. That's quite good. So I'm just kind of hanging in there. I gotta say, like, I freaking love my friends on Twitter and Telegram and Facebook and everywhere. It's just been so much fun and so cool to have people that get it, that understand me, understand what's going on in the world, and we can just be real and communicate with each other. So I can't really overstate how important that is for like my mental health and probably all of us. I would presume. Even though I'm playing this dramatic, like depressing music, Eric Satie, the romanticism is very. I should probably find something more fun. All the fun stuff it'll give me like a what do you call it, a copyright strike though. I would love to play, you know, just any kind of other music that I like, which is a lot. But you know how it is. You know how YouTube is. So that's all fine and dandy. I will eventually take a look and see who's here, if anybody's here, if I'm just talking into the mist. I suppose this kind of art stream where I'm penciling the pages is maybe not as entertaining as the inking. Like this is obviously when I'm an inked page, so I ink over the pencils, right? Because it's so much clearer. It's cleaner. You can see everything, right? But I could do some inking tonight, I guess. I don't know. If anyone's in the chat, I'm going to ask you, should I do penciling or inking? I am about to check the chat. Wow, there's already 5 people here with 6 thumbs ups. Let's see if we got any chat action here. We got, who's here? Oh, Crusader21, the leader of Donald Kent Art chat channel. Okay. Hey, wow, look who's here. Noelster. I see you all the time on Twitter, and it's so cool to have you here on Facebook. Very, very cool. I have to tell you, Noelster, you look so much like, you're like a doppelganger of one of my best friends from high school. Bizarre. Every time I see you, I always think you're that other guy. So, I don't know, it's weird because I feel like I know you, but I don't. So, but I kind of do, though, in a internet way. Jay Lewis is here. So much work, man. Looks great. Thanks, bro. Bruh. Jay Lewis continues, a comic book is such a huge undertaking. It's so daunting. Most people wouldn't even attempt it. And look how much you've done. Looks great, man. Inspiring. That means a lot to me. I sincerely appreciate these words. It really means a lot because I have a lot of work to do. and I'll talk about that in a bit. Imminent Rain, the god of the guitar. If you guys have not seen his recent video, head over to Imminent Rain later and check out what he's doing. The man is gifted in so many levels, so go check him out afterwards. Subscribe to his channel. A very dear friend of mine. I had the pleasure of playing live with him at the White Art Collective Music Festival. Those lines are amazing, brother Donald. Thank you, sir. HBS Victor is here. Welcome. I like your avatar. That's cool. Unvaxxed seed for sale with me. Extra fee for overweight girls. Yeah, us unvaxxed guys, like, we got to start our own dating site, I swear. It's true. Comics take a ton of work and patience. Yeah, so there's two things here. One is, I've done comics before. I could kind of like grab a couple and sort of maybe show them over here on the screen. But almost all of it is stuff I've done for other people, kind of hired out or like as a freelancer, that kind of thing. I've done my own stuff. I've published little like short stories and this and that. I recently did a comic, just a 2-page comic written by Kai Moros. Kai Moros is a legend in our sphere. He's from Finland, great lecturer on, white people taking back their sovereignty, their destiny. Look him up, Kaimurros. And the cool news with that is that is going to be printed in the first Media to Rise magazine. I just did a, interview with Rob Rundo from Media to Rise on my channel. I would recommend that you check that out afterwards. And he's got this concept of having like a sort of a right-wing Rolling Stone, like a magazine that's cool and fun for right-wing guys, that are like, dudes that like to lift weights and, guys that basically would be in like Patriot Front and Identity Europa and any and all of these kind of nationalist groups that you see across Europe, etc. So I fully support that, and once again, my comics are going to be in the first issue of that, so that's damn cool. I will say that I've talked about doing this with a friend, guy by the name of Jack McCracken, who is in other media circles, and I don't. He takes care of different websites, and whether or not some comic strips are sort of republished in other places, we'll see how that all goes. But that would be really cool if we could get that together as well. Ultimately, it's just about like making content for our people, moralizing, inspiring. I feel like we had a pretty long run of like newscasts and intellectual shows, and then it seems kind of like, and that's never gonna not be relevant, but I would say that like there seems to be like a real need for more fun stuff in a way. So I'm like all over the place here, but it's always been, it's sort of a childhood dream to be a comic book uh, artist, writer guy, to publish. And I have many, many stories that I've written. A while back, I submitted something that got approved for Countercurrents, and then like this, that, and the other thing happened, and I kind of fell away from that. I'm only one man, so maybe someday in the future I kind of pull that back out. That was more of a science fiction story. It's like if you could imagine Donald Kent's version of Blade Runner meets Alien or something like that, but with like a white positive message to it. But I mean, just the fact that it was approved by Countercurrents for me personally is like it's kind of a thing I'm proud of, so even though it didn't manifest yet. And so the other thing about like, my God, wow, how do you plan on pulling this off? Well, it's just me and the grave. You know what I mean? It's just me and the rest of my life. I've got the rest of my life, and I'm not gonna waste it doing nothing. I gotta produce, and I have to say, like, especially coming from a place where I'm coping with a lot of grief and other types of depression and stuff. This is like an anchor for me. Making art it's really is a type of an anchor. Um, you go to your job, you do what you got to do for the day, and then what's after that. Like, a lot of people will just watch TV. I'm like, well, that's not a very productive life. I'll watch TV, for the last hour, for me to just sort of like calm down and chill out and go to sleep. Just to like tone down the brain waves, that kind of thing. But I'd really rather be putting books out. I'd really rather have something to show for at the end of my life. If somehow or other I'm able to make like sufficient money from this, whereby I can say, you know, retire early, or just focus on this, or you know what I mean, like, that would be sweet. That's the goal. That is certainly the goal. Um, I am going to be running a crowdfunder after I get this going. Like, I have to get this to a state where it's sort of pretty much ready to roll. And I want to give it away. I want to give like the first book away on like PDF or something. I'll figure something out, and that way people can get invested in the story. I feel like a lot of times writers, comics people, or whatever, they just run off of their fame. They're like, oh, I worked for DC Comics for 30 years, and I'm that guy that did that Batman, or I'm that guy that did the Spider-Man, something, something. And so everybody already loves that person, and they'll get, like $100,000 in a weekend of like, launching a comics campaign. And that's freaking phenomenal. I'm jealous as hell. I will admit it, but I love those guys, so more power to them. God bless them. But I want to get my own gig going. I'm definitely more far right. I could easily fit in. I think I fit into the comic skate scene. I've already done work with John Della Rose, etc., etc. Um, but I'm definitely way more far right than those guys, and so I don't know. I think we could be friends or whatever. It's not like, like we couldn't, have a cigar and a scotch or something. But that's fine, and I don't sit around like making it an issue that I have to, like, everybody has to agree with me or some shit like that. And I don't think those guys do either, so I'm not terribly worried about it. All right, so this page is fairly wrapped up here. What else? Maybe one or two tiny things to add. Um, I don't know. I'm sort of trying to respond to some of the things you guys said a moment ago, and see if I can make some sense of it. But yeah, if you don't if you don't have something to keep you sane, I think it's, I don't know, you gotta have something to keep you sane. That's all I gotta say. And doing this kind of work, it's like I said, my anchor. So there you go. Alrighty. Oh, and I wanted to ask you: do you guys want me to do penciling, or do you guys want me to do inking? Because I've got plenty of penciled pages I could ink, if that's what you like. Let me check the chats, see if I have any answers here. Wow, 7 people, 10 thumbs up. I never understood the math of that. Music. All right. Budgie Burgers here. Good to have you. Welcome to the Unvaxxed Club. Signum Fide is here, and he is saying, how do you prevent your hand holding the pencil from smudging the work? Well, that has a lot to do with the type of pencil that you have. I don't know how well this will come across. This is a 4H pencil. There's different, the two pencils is kind of the standard. There's different types of graphite, and like the lighter ones, they don't smudge. But if I use like a real dark one and I go like so, you're gonna get a mush page and it'll look like crap. So I actually have to go out and buy more of these. That's another thing people don't think about, is like all the money you spend on just equipment. Let's see. Eric Satie is great. I'm glad you like him. Hey, Dave Martell. The Bogmaster is here, Dave Martell. All right, how you doing, brother? So good to have you. You always bring a lot of power and energy wherever you go. Budgie Burger. That wasn't the best Dave Martell impersonation. I should work on one. That would be funny. That would be hysterical. We could do like a little comedy skit or something. That'd be so funny. I'm trying to work on my Mark Collette accent. That's really, I'll have to get that one together, because he's got that really entertaining English accent. He's got a lot of energy, but he speaks very intelligently as well. So I'll have to. I don't think I do it very well, so I'm not going to embarrass myself. I love your people. Yes, indeed. No robots, indeed. Oh yes, watermelon. Lots of it. Let's see. Victor says, I don't ever want to go back to being a wagey. Oh gosh. Victor, are you a freelance artist? Are you a full-time artist? Remember the story about the leftist teacher who hated me? Oh yeah, I think we spoke about that in the previous show. He did Wolverine for Marvel. Oh, okay, there you go. Jay Lewis, Baby Blaster has MAGA hands back. Yeah, now this is this is what I mean about comedy. Like there's this one character called Flexo. He's like the stretchy superhero guy, and he's always got like a funny quip. And so like the militiaman and his wife announced that they're gonna be parents, that she's gonna have a baby, and it's a big event. Everyone's cheering, happy. This guy tosses in a joke about like, oh well, that's good because he's got your back while you're in battle. So he's got your back, and then you see the baby and shooting in the backpack or whatever you call it there. It's just like a little something to make you like the characters, that they're likable, they can laugh at themselves a bit, character development, right? Reading on. Okay, Chrono is here. Welcome, Chrono. Good to have you here. Hey, Donald, you started doing comics, or you're just drawing and organized? No. This is definitely a new graphic novel I'm doing. It's about 125 pages. Jay says, ink or pencil, up to you. I love these streams. I'm unemployed artist. Oh, well, okay. We're going to work on that. Well, I'll tell you what. See, because like, I guess I'll do some inking. I just kind of feel like it's maybe a little more entertaining for you guys. But let me quick check to see what page is next for the inking, or what would maybe be fun to ink. I kind of like to do them in sequence. I think I accidentally skipped a page though. Page 6, 5, 6. Maybe I'll do. Well, like the architectural stuff's a little boring. I'm not gonna do that. I'll probably do. You know what? I don't know. Maybe why not just do this one? We're already here. This will be the mood for today, or for now, for the hour or something. Dave Martell, what's new with you, man? What have you're always putting out cool videos and stuff. There's always something going on. So maybe you can share a little bit about what you're doing in your world. If you guys don't know, I've put out some work with Dave on the Bizarchives. Go to thebizarchives.com, check out the books. Dave is single-handedly taking back pulp fiction, fiction from the 1930s, where our guys are the heroes. And it's good stuff. Great bunch of creators, writers that he's working with. I think most of them are from England, the last I remember, which I find interesting. I love the kind of America-England crossover and like how that all pans out. I think that's pretty neat. I'm kind of feeling like I might want to change the Satie music to something else. I don't know what's copyright free that I can play that I would like. If you guys have any suggestions, that would be helpful. And this is kind of going dry, so I'm going to need another one. I'm changing up my style a tiny bit with this piece because whenever I used to draw panels, I would always use a thick marker. But I noticed that in comics, they're very, very thin. The panel lines are very, very thin. And I thought, maybe I should do that. I'm like, sort of modernize my look, kind of, I don't know. The super thick panel lines do look a bit amateur. They're just a bit clunky. I don't know. I want these to have a very contemporary look. In comics, a lot of it today has to do with the colorist. They really, really have a very significant role in the look of the final piece. I did find a guy from South Africa who I'm looking to probably hire as my colorist and letterer on this project. It's a tricky thing because digital coloring is extremely tedious and time consuming, and it's not like a coloring book. You're not just filling in, apples are red and the sky is blue. There's a lot of subtlety and shading and texture involved. So these guys do a lot of the heavy lifting in comics, especially these days. Back in, say, 1960s, 70s, whatever, the colors were much more simple, right? Just basic colors and stuff. But nowadays, it's quite exquisite. And the guy I found, he's just he's got good chops. He knows how to do sort of like reflective light and has some they're just subtle things that I guess the average person maybe they can't really identify these sort of lighting type qualities. An artist obviously is going to know, but think about, let's say, a scene in a laboratory at night where the lights went out and there's a glowing green orb that came out of a chamber or something, and so like everything has been like glowing green, but yet it also has to have the color of whatever it was, and so these are things that are actually quite hard to do, and to do well. So it's going to be neat. I'm just really excited about it, but this is my point. So giving away the first issue and to kick off a crowdfunding event for the whole graphic novel is what I hope will be a way to pay this guy, because I probably shouldn't say how much he charges or whatever, but I don't know how professional that is. But let's just say that, there's no way I could pay for it out of pocket. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm going to get this thing off the ground, I'm going to have to do some crowdfunding. And that's totally normal. That's just a very, very normal, it's the way it's done. Um, so there you go. Um, yeah. I'm going to swing up here and take a look at the chat a little bit. Yeah, just because I don't like to be rude. All right. So we got Dave Martell in the house. What else is up? Let's take a look. Unemployed. Brilliant. Do more English accents. Budgie Burger, are you from England? I'll do some English accents. So, Dave, got some new books coming out. Fabulous. Stephen Dollard is here. Welcome, Stephen. Always love the stream. Hail, Don. Hail our art. Hail our people. Indeed. God bless us all. Bizarchives A5. Bizarchives 5 is out. A new horror novella, and I'm also I have a solo work coming up. Very, very good. I'm writing a mob drama from the 1980s, Philly. Dude, I should introduce you to my friend who does Chicago Typewriter. Chicago, you could Google Chicago Typewriter graphic novel. He's a bud of mine, and I don't know. I just feel like two great writers should know each other. So that sounds like a really. I just saw Road to Perdition the other night with my son. It's like father son night, and so I'm kind of in that zone of that like. Well, this is the 1980s, you're saying, but I'm like going back to like the 30s here. Anyway, Budgie Burger says, looks will always be modernized. Try your best to be compromised. Chrono, it's been a long time since I saw your video. I think it was about Conan. Yeah, that was a cool video. The Hyperborean Spirit. You see yourself as white nationalist. How do you see comic industries as far right guy? I'm asking because I'm not American. I'll get to that in a moment. Brendan Sharp. Um, I we'll talk offline, and I'll talk to you more about that stuff, Dave. I know him. He sent a copy. Oh, okay. So we know who we're talking about. So I'm not technically a white nationalist. I'm an ethno nationalist. The what do you want to say? The kind of the difference. What's the difference here? So if I were, let's say, I was born in France, Germany, England, Poland, etc., I would be a white nationalist because I believe that countries should have, let's say, if I were born in Japan, I would be a Japanese, I'd be like an Asian nationalist or something. The point being that all people, in my belief, should have a homeland. And I know that there's some questions that might pop into your mind when I bring that up, but I'll just leave it pretty much at that essentially everybody should have a homeland. And so in the case of America, you have Native American peoples, First Nations. You have people that were kind of displaced here through history, but over generations, grew up here, are born here, are Americans now, etc. And so our case is more complex. However, I really believe in white sovereignty, and that being that whites should have a choice of, not a choice, it should have well, of course the choice, but should have our own land. It's a kind of like self-segregation. There's a saying that, access to white people is not a human right. It's a very big topic. Would be like better for like an actual show, or get a couple people on and have like a discussion about it. But I know that in places like the UK and whatnot, that there's similar situations. You might have like people who came over from Jamaica or something, and they've been, or even India or something, and maybe they have a few generations of family, and so they wouldn't feel at home going back to those places. Um, and I also know that there's people out there with more extreme views that is pretty much like it's pure ethno state, a pure ethno state where people should you know be only with their people, and I don't disagree with that, but I also want to have some level of logic and rationality. So rationality, is that a word? Being rational in terms of where do these people go? What about people who are biracial? These are immutable characteristics they're born with. They can't change. This is where I have the notion of Westmen and people like who put Western civilization first and make nationalism first. Um, it gets messy. It gets complicated, and I can see that there's a lot of debate around the topic that is important to have. I'm engaged in a lot of that kind of discussion and like you know groups that are like Telegram and this kind of place like that. So there it is. That's the answer to that. There was some other question that I totally forgot. I don't want to keep stopping my work though. Something about comics. Ah, shit, I forgot. Am I getting old? Is that what it is? I forgot. Uh, music. Sati. Things get very peaceful when I stop talking. Suddenly I'm in like the zone. Looking for a special brush. And I can't find it. Where is it? This one? So speaking of the topic of white nationalism, I put out a meme on Twitter and a bunch of other places to kind of troll the ADL because the ADL created this fake white nationalist, what do they call it? White nationalist weekend of hate. And it's just like every other bullshit psyop that they put out. It's a way to get money. So they, sure enough, there was like a crowdfunder attached to it that the white nationalists are planning on a weekend of hate, and so we donate money so that we can funnel it to synagogues and other religious organizations, to counter the weekend of hate. And no such weekend of hate exists. It's all they just invented it, you know. And we all we all knew that like straight out of the gate as soon as we saw the news. We all rolled our eyes. And I thought, well, actually, the idea was from a friend of mine, Spencer Quinn, who's I've done work with. That's how, if you know me, you know Spencer Quinn. But yeah, he came up. I don't know, was it him or not? I'd have to go back to the Telegram chat where we were talking about this. Anyway, I made the meme and I put it out there, and it's got kind of like a hippie 1960s, the weekend of love, the white nationalist weekend of love. It's not. It's got like that type of graphics to it, with like the paisleys and peace symbols and that kind of thing. And it's a troll, but it could also work. It could also be kind of a fun thing. And so I set the dates for Saturday and Sunday this weekend. And then on there I just said like memes, music, and movies. And I was trying to think of like, there's all kinds of great videos and stuff out there, like anything of American Renaissance, or maybe Europa: The Last Battle, or like there's just tons of our stuff out there that people could be um, checking out. Um, as it always goes, though, like they suppress anything and everything that we try to say or do. So it was really just kind of a joke. It If somebody does something with it, I think that'd be pretty cool. I'll certainly. I mean, I post movies and memes and fun stuff all the time, but a lot of it's pretty angry and negative because, of course, I'm responding to the world as it is. But to have like a weekend of love for your people, show love for your folk, that could be a nice break in a way from the just sort of the overall uh, negativity of everything that we are surrounded with all the time. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of people took it seriously, and I'm like, yeah, go for it. But we'll see how it works. Um, the thing that's funny to me right now is that I got actually. This is kind of a personal story, so maybe I'll share some personal stuff with you guys, and then have like a interesting story. It's Donald Kent story time. Okay, get your popcorn, kids. Okay, so I got a call the other day at work, and it's kind of a buddy of mine. He's a fun dude, fun guy to hang out with, but like he's like, okay, it's sort of a surprise call. Just when I hear his voice right away, I'm like, oh boy, here's something's gonna happen. It's like that kind of guy. And he's like, he starts off by saying, hey, I'm gonna embarrass you. I'm like, okay, here we go. What is it? And he goes, well, do you remember a girl from high school that you dated, that you liked, you had a crush on, and you blah 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 blah. And I'm like, oh yeah, that girl. And yeah, well, I'm with her right now. She's at this particular bar. And I was like, oh whoa, so. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure you have me on speaker right now so she can hear me talk about her, whatever, whatever. And he essentially sets up like a date for what was yesterday, actually. And I'll be honest with you, I was really anxious about it. I was really excited about it. I hadn't seen her obviously in quite a long time. The thing that how I fell for her is that we were both in the school musical together, and she is an exceptional dancer. Like she actually runs her own dance school, and as a young artist, I was blown away at like just how incredible she was. Of course, she's very beautiful, and all that stuff, but the artistry of what she did as well, like it moved me quite deeply. And she just has like a really amazing energy as a person that it's really attractive, blah blah blah. So took her out a couple times. We had some fun, and whatever. She went back to her old boyfriend, and it's high school. Okay, so like I don't, I don't. It's not like a big scar on my heart. It's not like that. It was nice, but whatever. It came and went. So years later, here's this like, hey, we're getting together tomorrow night at X bar. And I'll be honest, my imagination started running wild and kind of thinking, wow, could this turn into something? We'll see. I was pretty excited about it. And I went and I met her, and it turns out my buddy was like stuck on the road in some whatever, couldn't make it. So it was just her and me, which is even better because he would have kind of, been a a nuisance. like, kind of like messing up my mojo or something. Anyway, it it was fun and it went well or whatever, but over so many years of being apart and growing up, becoming adults, she just became very liberal, and we, whatever, it just like the vibe wasn't there because I was like, it's not gonna work. I certainly can like have fun with her and have a drink and a laugh and just enjoy myself, just kind of that kind of thing. A little bit of flirting, kind of nostalgic, da da da. But there's nothing really here, that I could actually, you know, turn into like a real relationship. So I go on Twitter uh, that evening that I come back, and I'm like, damn, it's hard to find like a far right girlfriend kind of thing. And kaboom, I get like 500 impressions, and I get like 70 something replies or likes or this or that, and I mean they were all good. There were, there are people, so like, there some of them were very funny, some were kind of black pilled, some were really sincerely giving, like, trying to give good advice. And there was a lot of good advice in there. um there was some clips of like Sam Hyde that were funny. um Blah blah blah, there's all this stuff that happened, and I it just made me laugh because I thought, like, of all the stuff that I post, this thing on like relationships got the most engagement. And then I thought, oh, there you go, you gotta change change your Twitter into like a far right relationship blog or something, how to find a trad wife, that kind of thing. Anyway, I'm laughing, but at the same time, I said, like, this seems to indicate that this is actually a real problem in our sphere. I think there's a pretty serious amount of like loneliness going on, among our guys and maybe girls, I guess. So I'm not gonna go too much farther into that topic or whatever, but um, that's my little story. So I hope you enjoyed it. I gotta say, I love inking. It's such a pleasure. There's just something about like the bouncy line that it's very much alive. I don't know, and that it's just you're finishing the concept. You like you sketch, you sketch, you sketch. You kind of like feel it out with the pencil, and then once like that's where it is, that's where the line goes, or there's the flow or the mood or whatever the gesture might be, and then you hit it, and it's nice. It's like it's like making a I don't know, making a score on slam dunk or something like that. All right, I'm gonna check the chat right now and see what I've got. Oh, that was the other thing, was to do more English accents. Okay, I remember. I'll do that for you guys in a minute. What is going on in the chat? Do you participate in the Passage Prize? I don't know what that is, Jay. They offered cash prizes, everything from paintings, poetry. Who's they? Compiled the entries, sold a book. If you could let me know, that'd be nice. It's quite an interesting topic because I'm Brazilian and here race and racialism is a taboo. Yes, of course. about this topic. There's too much mixed people here. I'm mixed, by the way. So that's exactly my point, is that there needs to be an answer strategy for people who are mixed race that is nationalistic and like, moral and healthy, so we have to find an answer for that. And I believe there is an answer. I certainly could partake in that conversation. Maybe you can do something similar with cheap entry fee pocket profit. You're going to have to tell me more about these things. Lilliput for Lilliputians. Well done. Dwarves for the are half welcome. Ah, very good. We have to be more white pilled about some questions. Even a dark time has your highlights. Hate always makes me laugh. It's usually absurd. Hyrith, Olivia Key for Null X. I'm not sure what the reference is there. Sam Hyde is my top guy. So, a lot of different things going on in the chat. So, yeah, let me muse a bit on the idea of like, where do mixed race people go in the so-called ethno state? I'm musing here, guys. I'm not like, this is my manifesto. It's not that heavy. And I don't live in a way where I'm like, okay, I had better say this one thing or this particular group is going to get angry at me. I just try to think in terms of what makes sense. And I don't care about like, what's the word, like thought policing within our sphere. And I do believe it exists. I just ran into somebody recently who was very much like that with me in a group, and I left the group because I was kind of like, I'm not in high school anymore. I'm not here to be like, told what I can and can't say. I think that's childish. Um, but yeah, so first and foremost, we've got to save white people. Like that's got to happen. We're in grave danger. We're in such a severely horrible, terrible situation, and I think everybody knows that. So I don't need to blah 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 on so much on that topic. Um, how could it look? Let's say if idealistically, we were able to kick out the parasites, because there are people that are going to have to go, and I'm mostly referring to foreigners, specifically like bad agents. Islam has no place in the West. These are some hard lines that I have. Like these are things I won't compromise on. I think a lot of us already know who we're talking about in that. But so there's that. It's very tricky in the case of like, African Americans, low IQ people that are violent and dangerous. Obviously, nobody wants to be around that. I don't want to be around that, and I'm you know very very much in favor of whites self-segregating away from these communities, even though there are plenty of high IQ, civilized, nationalistic, conservative blacks. And my view is that the good ones, I hate to use that term, but they should be the leader of their own black ethno state. So the leaders of that state. So like the Candace Owens or whoever else. What's his name? Sotomayor. Can't remember his first name. Something Sotomayor. He's very, very outspoken. He's actually really hilarious. Black guy. Swears a lot. He's phenomenal. I'm really angry that I can't remember his first name. But yeah, I feel very much that like they're gonna have to have their own space, and it's not our space. Where that will be and how that'll happen and all that, like the logistics of it, I can't say. I mean, that's some tricky stuff, you know. I'm sure that, you know, if we can put a man on the moon, we can figure that out. I'm not like, oh, it can't be done. You know, it has to be done. How, you know, and in what way? I don't know. I do have this idea, and I don't mean this sarcastically, to, let's say, take, say, some of the money that we're giving to Israel every year and put it into developing Liberia and turning Liberia into like the Black Puerto Rico. You know, a place where African Americans can go, have something of a homeland of their own. You know, use American dollars and uh, run their own society. You know, and a lot of our friends and our people are going to say, "Come on, you know, they're not going to do that." You know, because they know that they're essentially like hustling whites and hustling the system and da 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 da. Well, I do know that, but I'm also trying to talk about this in good faith. You know what I'm saying? And in, you know, like I said, like if like a Candace Owens were here, or a Jesse Lee Peterson, who you gotta love that guy. Um, I don't know, maybe even like Hotep Jesus. You know, people that are outspoken. Tree of Life, is that her name? Tree. It's a black woman who has a conservative YouTube show that I think is pretty good for what it is. You know, she's very outspoken. She's bright. She doesn't go for all the kind of liberal bullshit. But you know, I'm not there to help them. I'm there to help us. You know, that's what my mission is. And we have to think in terms of like what's the word, like international relations, you know, and you know, sort of behave like a nation, you know, behave like you know, this is your land, this is our land, these are your interests, these are our interests. How can we cooperate as neighbors, you know? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, immoral. There's nothing hateful about any of that. um, I think that we could become trading partners, you know, blah blah blah. You just fill in the blanks, you know. And I know that a lot of people would be mortified by those things that I just said now, and I think those people would be more like kind of normies, um, because it's not this kind of like Hollywood version of like the KKK or something, some kind of shit like that. That's not what I'm not talking about violent means. I'm talking about like, okay, what would incentivize blacks to go to Liberia, or what part of America could become a black ethno state, and how would that be agreeable to African Americans? You see what I'm saying? I mean, it's just this kind of normal policy making type thinking. That's kind of the mentality that I have on that. I'm not. Yeah, I'm angry. I'm hurt. I'm pissed. I There's plenty of reason to be horrified by, like, you know, African Americans and the way that they treat whites, and 200,000 violent crimes and murders a year. Blah 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 blah. I don't want to turn this stream into like a big thing on statistics, FBI statistics or something. But I think the more we talk rationally about these kind of plans, I think the more that this whole are we still working here? Okay, I think I might have jammed up for a minute. India is a country. Did I get cut off for a second here, guys? Did I lose contact? My phone is like showing me little things. Let me read your response here. I think the old system cast from Hispanic world is a good answer for many countries with many races. So there you go. Like we could be looking at other countries for examples. Chronos saying India is a country that survived many years with at least three different races and didn't uh, ever. It never occurred. Sorry, I'm trying to read this. It didn't never occurred a race war there. Okay. Of course, I know it is not the same thing as America, but could be studied. Yeah. So nobody nobody wants a race war. We want to find a peaceful resolution. Well, maybe some people do want a race war, but not me. I don't want that. Nobody wants to live in fear and da 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 da. It's just not. I know that we say a lot, we talk a lot of shit because we're righteously angry, but at the end of the day, we have to come up with ways to resolve this stuff, and I think it's worth talking about. Like we should have some discussion on this. Once again, people are going to look out for their own interests of their own groups, their own in groups. Like if like Hotep Jesus and I were to talk about this or something, I wouldn't expect him to be all lovey-dovey about white people and white interests. And I think that's just a silly thing to do. What we would do is what he did or tried to do with Scott Adams, was to say, like, let's look at the values we share, and he was saying God, money, and I forget what the last one was, freedom or some family. I don't quite remember what the last one was. Um, but there's two guys trying to have like a kind of a rational conversation about race, and that whether you agree with what they're saying or yada yada, those are the kind of conversations we need to be having, on a regular basis. Scott Adams, how about that? The Dilbert man. So I've been trolling the hell out of his Twitter, and I'm sorry if people find that annoying, but like, this is an event. This is a really, really, really important event. On my Telegram, I was saying that, like, it's kind of charming how naive he is, and I'm not saying that in a condescending way. Now, I think if he heard me say that, or he read me saying that, his pride might get a little offended or something, but he's like a babe in the woods. He's a kind of a moderate, becoming conservative kind of guy who's has like classical liberal leanings. He thinks that he's going to use logic to reason out this whole thing, and he's like the kind of self-help guru guy with his books that he wrote, which are pretty good, by the way. I have one of those books. Um, I like his cartoons. I like him in general, although we're on different ends of the spectrum politically, but that doesn't, it's not a prerequisite, I think, for liking someone or being friends, whatever. Um, Something's happening here, and it's kind of like, look what Kanye did, and now look what Adams is doing unwittingly. He he stepped in a bear trap. He stepped on a landmine, being honest and logical about, whites have to move away from blacks. This is not gonna get better. It is what it is, yada yada yada. And then, of course, the internet exploded, the left exploded. He's getting, sort of punished for it, but he's grifting off of that. He's using it wisely or cleverly, I guess, to get attention and blah 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 blah. So I'm loving that. I think it's fun and cool, and it's certainly an important thing. It's putting our issues in the mainstream, or in the limelight, I should say. Um, so it's cool. It's an event, you know. My buddy, my Northern Irish buddy, Jack White, he says, like, I don't care who is helping, but that any